Hi, this is TLR's Matt Castellano. Today I'm going to walk you through how I build a diff for a TLR-22. Basically, you always want to start with a clean surface. That's the biggest thing. I'm going to start with the thrust. I got my thrust bearings here, washers, diff bolt. Take my 2.0. You always want to make sure all these washers are clean beforehand. And then I put a line of grease around the first washer here. Kind of spin it around. And take your thrust bearings. Basically put all the thrust bearings on around here, and then once I get all these on, put another ring of grease on the top of all of them. And then I take my other washer, lay that on top. And then once all the grease pushes out the side, I just take my finger, kind of rub around it, and it gets grease all on the outside of the balls and takes off any excess grease around the outside. Once you have your thrust assembly all set, kind of put that aside for now, and then go back to the out drives here, and grab your diff rings, and also you can pop the bearings in, or the one bearing into the out drive now. And then on this you want to use clear grease. And I just put a ring around the out drive here where the diff ring goes. And put the ring on, and I kind of clean it up with my finger again. And same with this one. And once you have your rings there, you can go back to your thrust and put it in the female out drive. Just kind of slide it in like that. You always want to double check and make sure you're putting the screw or the diff bolt in the right side. This is the female side here with the bearing, and that's the side that your thrust assembly and the diff bolt goes through. And then your other side here, the male side, this is the side that the spring and the nut will go into. Now I got the thrust assembly all complete. I'll put the out drives aside for now and move on to the diff gear. I got my diff balls here and my bearing. I can push that into the center. I like to take the balls and pull them out, and I put a glob of grease on this bag here. Now that I have a glob of grease here on the bag, I take my bearings and I just kind of roll them around in there, make sure that all the bearings get covered with the clear grease. Clear grease again, and put a ring around the diff gear, and you kind of want to get it to kind of go through all the holes that the bearings go in, and it'll kind of push out the other side a little bit. I like to use the 2.0, and you can kind of just pick up each bearing and push them through. Now that all the balls are assembled inside the gear, I can start putting my diff together. So I'm going to take my spring and nut, also bring it over. Take your female outdrive, and I like to just lay the gear right on top of that. And then the male outdrive, and put that through. And then, now that the male outdrive is in, grab my spring and nut and slide those in. And then just slowly start tightening the bolt into the nut. And then as you tighten it, I always check to see how tight it is by just holding the gear and spinning one outdrive. And if the other one doesn't spin, I keep tightening until the opposite outdrive spins as well. Just go a little bit at a time. Now that the other outdrive is spinning, I think that's a good spot to start. When you throw it into your car, it's a good spot to start when you're breaking it in. Now that my diff is complete, I'm going to throw it into my transmission now. I like to use a white lithium grease that you can get at like an auto store, and I just put 4 dots around the diff gear. You don't want to use too much or too little. Too much, you don't want it flying around your transmission, and you could get in the diff and stuff like that. So I just put 4 dots on there. Alright, now that I have my 4 spots of grease on here, a lot of people ask which way to put the diff in. I always put it in with the head of the screw facing away from the motor plate. And then when you do put a new diff in, it's always a good idea to throw in a new idler gear. I'm going to put that in, put my whole transmission together. And then spin it and make sure everything is free. And then put my screws in. Once you have these 3 screws in, you want to double check and make sure that you just snug them up. You don't want them too tight because it will not. You just want to make sure it spins freely. If you over tighten them, it won't spin free. So just double check. You want these screws snug. And now that you have the whole transmission built, you know, throw it back into the car. Now that the transmission's in my car with the new diff, I'm going to break it in. Basically, what I do is I hold one tire and just give it a little bit of gas and hold it for maybe 15-20 seconds and kind of switch back and forth. So, just slowly break it in. Then switch side. And as I do each one, I'll tighten the diff after going back and forth maybe 3 or 4 times. I'll slowly tighten the diff, and I'll do that until I come up on the diff tension I like. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 tightenings to get it to where I like it. Alright, now that I've gone back and forth a couple times breaking it in, I'm going to tighten it with the diff adjustment tool. And I usually tighten it about a quarter to a half turn every time. Just go a little bit tighter. And you're going to do this maybe 3 or 4 times and keep breaking it in, going back and forth until you come up on your final tension. And what that's doing is just putting a good groove in the ring. And so you just want to take your time breaking it in to get that groove good. Alright, now I've completed the break-in. I've come up on my final tension here. The main thing is it's kind of all by feel. We always start off on the tighter side with diff tension, because once it breaks in on the track, you don't want it to bark. So, I mean, you just kind of spin the tires like this, and you don't want to see the tire spin more than about a half a turn. We always run our diffs kind of on the tighter side. And you just kind of maybe look at the TLR on the side and get it to spin a half turn. You always want to come up on your final tension. You never want to loosen it and have that be your final tension. If you do over tighten it, make sure you over loosen it and then come back up on your tension. Now I'm going to go into setting the slipper. I always like to loosen my slipper before checking the diff for the first time. A lot of people will just go and check their slipper with a brand new diff and bark their brand new diff. So I loosen it about a half turn right away. And then go to check your slipper, hold both the tires, and pretty much give it a little bit of throttle. And you want the tires to come up. I mean, it's kind of personal preference. I like the tires to come up to about here. Other people don't like their slippers as tight. So I'm just going to tighten it a little bit until I get it to where I want. That's about where I run my slipper. Like I said, it's personal preference, and you just gotta kind of play with it until you feel comfortable. All right, we've completely broken in, rebuilt a new diff. We went through how to grease it, what grease to use, how much grease to use, how to break it in. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just taking your time building it. Don't rush through it. And take your time breaking it in. I think that's a big part of it, and slowly come up on your diff tension while breaking it in. I think if you follow these steps, it should last a lot longer, and it makes your car handle a lot better. So thanks for watching.